All right, enough editorializing. Let's get to the real thing. Ray Wylie Hubbard is the elder statesman of Texas music. He's a singer and a songwriter. He's been called a ragged prophet, a profane poet, and a lusty preacher. And he's been making music here in Texas for over 4 decades. You can hear Hubbard every Tuesday night at 7 hosting his Roots and Branches on KNBT 92.1 out of New Braunfels, Texas. And he's here today with his lovely wife, Judy. Ray Wylie Hubbard.
Thank you. What a nice introduction. I can hardly wait to hear what I have to say. When I was 16 years old, I was a sophomore at Adamson High School, and they had an assembly. And so I get out there, and all of a sudden, one of the cheerleaders came out at this assembly with a guitar and said, here's a song I wrote. And that cheerleader's name was Michael Murphy. At that point, it came to me that here was a songwriter. The first guy I'd ever seen that said, here's a song I wrote, and he's singing. He was a songwriter. And so at that point, myself and 3 other fellows decided to form this band. So we formed this band. We'd been together about 2 or 3 months, and one of the guys suggested that we get instruments and learn to play them, because we were going nowhere. So we got a mandolin, a banjo, and some bongos, and we went nowhere immediately. But at that point in Dallas, at that time, that was it was just phenomenal, because there was a little club there called the Rubaiyat. I'd go to this club and I'd see Michael Murphy play. Saw Mance Lipscomb, saw Lightning Hopkins, Johnny Vandiver. And after high school, I went to New Mexico, ran into Stephen Fromhost. He said, you need to come down to Austin. So we started coming down to Austin. And all of a sudden, there was a place there called the Checkered Flag, which was run by Rod Kennedy. And I saw these incredible musicians like Alan Dameron and Big Bill Moss, and then Guy and Towns, and then it was amazing. Then everybody knows the story about Willie's house burned down in Nashville, and he grabbed some weed and a guitar and came to Austin. And then I think the term was called progressive country, and it was progressive at that time. Jerry Jeff moved here, and you had Jerry Jeff, who was a folk singer. All of a sudden, you got John Inman, who was an incredible rock and roll guitar player. Willie Nelson, who was a Nashville straight songwriter. All of a sudden, you got Mickey Raphael playing blues harp with him, who had started off playing with B.W. Stevenson and myself in Dallas. Then you had guys like Michael Murphy, who was a folk singer, and all of a sudden he got Herb Steiner on steel guitar. So the music was progressive, and it was the thing about Austin. It was just the audience was almost as another member of the band, and everything was great. And then the movie Urban Cowboy just completely killed it. I mean, it just, because also it wasn't about the music anymore. It's about line dancing and mechanical bulls, and so Texas music became popular. But all of a sudden, you'd go to Philadelphia. Well, at that point, John Inman and Bob Livingston and Paul Piercy, who were Jerry Jeff Walker's band, they decided to leave Jerry Jeff Walker, and they became my band. Which at the time, looking back on it, it's just kind of like they wanted a different seat on the Titanic. But we would travel these places after Urban Cowboy, and you'd go to like Philadelphia, and there'd be like a mechanical bull and line dance. So it wasn't about the music there. But then at that point, Stevie Ray and Jimmy Vaughn came here, and the T-Birds, and all of a sudden Clifford Antone, and the music here was just, it became significant again, and rather than just a scene. And so that, like I say, and I feel very fortunate as an old cat, and to be able to still write songs and perform and go around. I'm very, very grateful for that. And just Dale Watson, who, like I say, I don't know if you was just recently on the David Letterman show. And I was on the David Letterman show, I guess, last January. Someone asked me, said, don't you think 66 was a little old to be making your first appearance on David Letterman? And I said, well, I didn't want to peak too soon. But that's the thing about the Texas music, and I really feel that Oxford American Magazine, to be a part of that, the way that they're going to do this, that it will show the respect and all of a sudden some of the humor and how significant the Texas music scene is, and I think it's in pretty good hands, because you got guys like Slade Cleaves and Hayes Carl and all those cats. So I tell you what, I'm really excited about it, and I tell you what, like I say, I'm glad to be here, and I think it's going to be a very, it's going to be a good read. Thank you.
Dale Watson is a singer, guitarist, songwriter, and author based here in Austin. He's described as a stubbornly independent outsider who was interested in recording authentic country music. Dale started playing in clubs around Houston and Pasadena as a youngster. He was in a house band at the Palomino Club in LA. I first heard him on those compilations in towns south of Bakersfield. He champions Ameripolitan as a new genre of original music. Dale Watson.
Man, I don't know. I gotta thank you for the kind words, and also Ray Wylie. I gotta take Ray to task on the urban cowboy thing though a little bit, only because I'm from Pasadena, Texas, and I snuck in many a time to Gilley's. And I guess he was talking more about the movie, and it did change things to where everybody got a cowboy hat and with a big old feather on it, and I did too. But my first concert I snuck in to see Willie Nelson at Gilley's, as a kid, and but it was a different time then. I mean, the fights they showed in that movie, they happen a lot, but it did get to be about the fashion. And but the beautiful thing about Texas music is, I was playing beer joints, but you could back then. It wasn't illegal. They changed the drinking age. I didn't drink till I was 30. Then I caught on pretty quick. So I was often chauffeuring folks around at all these beer joints we'd play in Pasadena and Pearland and Alvin and actually we hardly ever got out of Pasadena and Houston, and then opened my eyes one day and came to Austin and realized I can do original music, and this is a town that celebrates original music, originality. Where I lived in Nashville and I went to LA. I did play the Palomino, but them two places, Nashville and LA, don't reward originality. They actually want you to be a cookie cutter. They don't encourage you to be yourself, and Austin does. It rewards originality, and Texas does in general, but especially Austin. And I think one of the biggest things that they told me they're going to feature in this issue is us underdogs. Like Ray said, he's 66 going on Letterman. I was 50, and we do have an audience. We're lucky enough to have people support our original music, and it is all over the world. When I go, I'm sure Ray is this way too. Every Texan that goes to Europe, they ask you where you're from. You don't say I'm from the U.S. You say I'm from Texas, and there's a lot of pride in that. And I'm really proud to be a part of this magazine, doing this issue. There's so much you got your work cut out for you though, covering the music in Texas. There's a lot of it, and I'm glad it's going to be finally exposed to everybody. I'll get out of here.
You might know Jason Roberts if you've ever listened to Asleep at the Wheel. He was their fiddle player for about 20 years. He's got his own band now, the Jason Roberts Band, continuing the rich tradition of Texas swing. Jason's a 2-time Grammy Award winner, a 3-time Music Hall of Famer, and the grandson of another Texas Music Hall of Famer. Born and raised in Texas, who plays music born and raised in Texas. Jason Roberts.
Howdy, y'all. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate y'all all being here. Hi, Barbara. I am a native Texan, grew up in Lampasas, Texas, up the road here, and did spend many years, 19 years almost, with Asleep at the Wheel, and have recently formed the Jason Roberts Band. And I feel, like these other guys, I feel really, really honored to just be a small part of the rich music heritage of Texas and to, you know, be an ambassador to the world with Texas music. And it's a little strange being up here without a fiddle under my neck, I have to say. But, you know, my first musical influences probably were my grandparents. My grandmother, who's going to be 103 this summer, she has a hard time remembering anything these days except the music that she played her whole life, you know, barrel house piano. And she doesn't play piano, but I catch her all the time humming, you know, and singing songs, and I think Texas was a big part of that for her. And, you know, Dale's right that Oxford American does have a lot of ground to cover Texas music, because it encompasses so many styles and genres of music, you know, and as the Jason Roberts Band, myself and the gentleman with whom I play music, we choose to do Western swing for that reason, kind of the all-encompassing musical, you know, overall. I mean, there's jazz, blues, a little bit of big band swing, a little bit of traditional fiddle music. So that's, you know, we just do it wearing cowboy hats, but it's all, it's you know, a brush stroke of a lot of different styles of music. So, you know, I think to myself almost daily about how no matter what style of music you're talking about, there almost always is a Texan somewhere near the forefront and the cutting edge. You know, I'd hate to think what rock and roll would have been without Texans like Buddy Holly and Janis Joplin, and country music without Willie and Waylon, you know, and then, of course, Western swing music without Bob Wills. So, you know, that's what we choose to do, because it does encompass most of our favorite styles of music, and it's a real honor to be included with these guys and to do it as my living. I'd do it anyway, whether or not it was my living. But and you know, and if you hear Dale and these guys play, you'll hear kind of the same thing. You know, several different styles of music, all under one roof, and so I think that's cool, and that's you know, Texas music and Texas musicians influencing one another and taking it and running with it. So anyway, thank you again to Oxford American and for shining a light on Texas music and our heritage. And as the great Bob Wills would say, oh, thank you for being there.
Okay, we got one more. And Matthew McConaughey's here, and we're really pleased that he took some time out. And introducing him, starting to get kind of a lengthy proposition these days. So, and he probably wouldn't want me to go on and on, would he? Yeah, I didn't think he would. I hear he plays the bongo, so I don't know. We'll be happy to try that out. But just a quick story. A close friend of ours, her name is Joey Lauren Adams, an actress, and she and Matthew worked in Rick Lickletter's Dazed and Confused some time back, and that's where they got to know each other. And Joey reached out to Matthew, and he said, yeah, I'll come out and I'll plug you guys. You know, we really appreciate it. And so here's Matthew. Thanks. Yeah.
Hey there. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Yeah, Joey, Lauren Adams, wrote me. I haven't talked to her in 22 years since we made Dazed Confused here in 1992. And because I knew her and because of the way she asked and because it was for the Oxford American, I immediately said yeah. And, you know, I love great music, and we've obviously got some tremendous music in our state here in Texas. And I love Austin as well. There's a good reason we're sitting here in Austin, Texas right now. A place that more so than any other allows a stage for these musicians, more so than any other place on the globe, really. For me, you know, I'm going to leave a whole lot of people out, but for me, the quintessential voice when I say country music, and I get asked this, you know, what voice is your favorite country musician? I always say Waylon. I've been privileged to get to listen to, talk to, and spend some time with, be friends with another legend living, Willie Nelson. I have broken many a sweat and woke up in the morning with a very sore neck from being on the front row at an Archangel's concert. I have had one of those lazy Tuesday afternoons at the Pecan Street Festival where you're walking around, putting on an early day buzz, letting your ear lead you to where you want to go. Trickled down a back alley and came across a stage with 8 people in front of it, and that turned out to be James McMurtry. I also would like to bring up something about the relationship of Texas, the state, with their musicians. This is one example that I want to bring up, and many of you are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you saw the same thing. It was summer of 1990. I was driving back from Dallas with a friend of mine, and it was slightly overcast, but it was not raining, and it was not dark yet. I started noticing that all the cars coming northbound, and the taillights of the cars going past me had the lights on. And I really didn't understand it. I thought it was the longest, funeral row, but the hearse never came. The rain never came. But the cars with their headlights kept coming, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And finally put on the radio and found out that that was memorializing Stevie Ray Vaughan moving on. And that relationship, I'd never seen that before. So these were people on the road, driving north and south between Dallas and Austin, all memorializing the death of Stevie Ray Vaughan live as it happened. And yes, I did in 1999 at 2:37 in the morning make my small little mark in Texas music when I got arrested on those bongos. Case was dropped. Somebody else paid, I think somebody else paid the $50 and we're still okay. But the Oxford American, it's a classy magazine. They've done different states. They write about the South. They're going to do their music issue about music here in Texas. The magazine, as I think Dale said, the challenge is going to be editing, obviously, because there is so much great music here. But what we're here for today is it's going to hopefully give their project a little bit of a boost. This is to kickstart their project. They're a nonprofit organization, so obviously the passion is what's driving them to do what they do. They love music, they love the South, and they're going to write about our great state and the music that comes from it. Just keep living. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. We want you to be engaged with the process. If you haven't signed up in the back of the room, please do, so we can keep you posted on how the music project's coming. And we just can't say enough about these 4 guys up here helping us tell the story about this project that we're involved in. And Roger and Rick will be around to answer any questions that you might have about the upcoming issue. And I'm going to back up. We're going to take some pictures of everybody, and we're done. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. You feel it first.